Welcome to the warehouse where we have stuff. Stuff in the back rooms of your local Lowe's or Home Depot or whatnot. That's where we're going. Haha. No, I think we gotta go to like the supply plant. That has to deal with how I get to basically the spaceport, if I remember right. Because eventually we gotta hit to the space. So the goal is to go to Planet Hell and kick its shit in. I mean, sure, why not? But thinking it's a planet is a bit different than thinking it's another realm. Think of like Thor stuff where it's just like, oh, Thor's doing stuff in outer space. Turns out Asgard was just a planet, and you're just like, you know, we've confused science fiction with fantasy for the last fucking time. That's kind of a... It's one of those gear grinding things. It's just like, science fiction is fantasy, and fantasy is science fiction. I'm like, stop it. Actually, no. What's more annoying is when you bundle it under something called speculative fiction. I'm like, speculative fiction is literally... I mean, I just think of myself as fiction. The speculation is what you think could happen, but then that's anything? I don't know. It makes it vague and broad and kind of it fuses genres is what I'm saying. It's okay if you want to believe them to be subgenres, science fiction, fantasy of this, but do not fuse the genres and be like, yeah, there's not separate elements we can sequester off to their sort of own stories. Because you can, and many continue to do so. I may have given up on this argument after I noticed the newest WarioWare made those two taxi cab guys. They're usually science fiction, and they decided to make them fantasy, even though there's clearly science fiction minigames. I'm like, that's it, I give up. Apparently, science fiction is fantasy now. Look, man, my Lord of the Rings is not Star Wars. I'm just saying. Although I can't deny Star Wars being based on some fantasy stuff. But, I mean, think of it like... Think of how original Star Trek was trying to do its own thing, when clearly it was basing it on, like, sets they had from other studios. Like, you know, movies about Rome. Or the West. And they're just like, yeah, just shove that into a Star Trek planet. Kind of weird, I know. It's like, alright, let's take the fruitcake of the theater materials and make our episode. Which is kind of a good plan, if you just want to do anything you want. Considering it's fiction, but okay. I don't know, is it too much to ask for some consistency? Art does not have to be sort of just directionless. I think art could do with some direction. It doesn't have to be made of direction, just some. Because otherwise, well, you get to the sandbox problem. You can just do anything you want and be like, yep. No, there's gotta be intention behind it. At least I think. This is not a discussion that... It's a discussion that needs a debate, but not one that needs a solution. If that makes sense. Because that's what it is. Debate your thoughts and put them in actions, or at least a little painting. With the boxes and crates. With the little mechanical Spider-Man. If only I remembered what the names of these things are. By the way, I think this might be Wraith Corporation's only game. It's almost as if these things just ride around to other things and stuff. So I'm thinking about Duke Nukem 3D mods, and I can only think of one or two that is not going to be worth doing. The first one not worth doing is the Penthouse mod, because it's one level, and also it is basically an AO rating for reasons that should be inherently obvious for me, referring to something as the Penthouse. Pent-up Rage House! But yeah, it's also one level. The other one being the Christmas one, because, well, it kind of borrows aspects from the original level design and then just puts snow on it. Or just literally makes one level make it go from backwards or something. That, and I don't know if... You'd probably laugh your ass off if you saw the plot, which is like... Duke has to oh no, Santa's eel has been controlled by the feminist elven militia. I'm like, are you serious right now? Someone have a little, someone had something to say, I'll say that. The art is good, though. But no, it has everything to do with the company behind it, which was Silly Software. Silly Software is kind of the bottom of the barrel of licensed game mods anyway. I think they're responsible for the D-Zone stuff, maybe. You should probably prefer stuff like Sunsoft, not Sunsoft, it was Sunstorm and Wizardworks. Those are preferable, supposedly. But I think I'm just going to have to stomach Silly Software anyway. That'll probably be fine. Oh, I think Sunstorm made a thing for Shadow Warrior also, yeah. I think Shadow Warrior has either 2 or 3 expansions. I'm going to try to look at. If there is a third one, I'm going to have to dig deep for that, because I think it's hanging around somewhere. Like, it was just in someone's disc that they never released, and so someone found it and, like, fixed it up, and I gotta figure out where that is. I forget what it was called, too. But I'll make it a goal to try to make that happen, assuming it exists. I like these titles, I can't seem to get anyone to find it. It's like, look what I found. It's like, why did you find this? I'm like, well, unlike you, I am a searcher. When in doubt, let the enemies infight. The greatest thing that Doom as a first-person has introduced. In fact, it's made the way of, when I do later other mods where there's slaughter maps, that's usually the way to deal with them, is to just get them to fight each other, and not even fire at them, assuming you have a place to hide, and hope it's okay by the end of it. Especially helps with then chain gunners try to hit you, because they'll just hit everything else first. Chain gunners are such a good target for that too, because then they'll just die instantly and not be out of your hair. And then next will just be like, just get literally everything to touch a Cyber Demon, and watch it kill everything else. And then you just have one Cyber Demon. Unless there's multiple Cyber Demon, well then it's anyone's guess. Because I don't trust levels with more than one Cyber Demon. I say that knowing full in advance what Plutonia is like. It is madness. I'm gonna have to end up there. It's the Dark Soul. It's the funny thing about Plutonia is that if you're playing all the Doom mods, it's not even the hardest. It is just hard in comparison to what an average gamer would care to try. I think maybe. I can't actually say that confidently, but I can say it probably means I have to do it. I think this will be the last time I mention it, because, except for maybe at the end of the playthrough. Just to be like, please do it, man, do the Plutonia. It's like, okay, man. Eventually. I want to do as much as I can, really. I'm, like, juggling between stuff I've already done, stuff you're asking about, which is really only a handful of stuff. I think I've technically got like a handful of requests that I'm pretty sure I can fill out. And then balance it with games that I have beaten in full and plan to cover, and with new stuff I want to do also. So, I just basically don't want to be stuck on rehashing old stuff, even though I'm going to do that anyway. This way, you can just be like, oh, he's doing this again, and then be like surprised when I do something else that's similar to that. It's like, oh, it's brand new. Or do something that feels like I did already, but I didn't, and be pleasantly surprised by that. I think it's good to feel familiarity with games that you know nothing about. Kind of a nostalgia is when you experience nostalgia for games you had no experience in the past. It's kind of cool. Also, I think I was following this Get Off My Lawn channel thing, where he described the feeling pretty accurately about what later generations think about our past media. That's not to say new media sucks, but I think the newest generation has a lot more to try to filter through to find stuff to identify with than previous generations. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means they have a lot more work trying to figure out how they fit in, I think. I think that might be true. Don't quote me on that. You can no, you can quote me on that. When I say don't quote me, I mean don't attribute to that to me, which I may find out be false later and take it back and be like, oops. If that's not obvious why I say that, I don't know why else I would. Cause I don't know why we put a yellow key card in the boxes and making my bitches. I'm getting quite sick of that eyeball sound. It sounds like someone's going woo into a wind tunnel. Just every time there's someone watching me, they're like, woo! Def sounds pretty good, though. It sounds more mechanical. But before, it just sounds like a wind turbine. It's like, no. And that's how you get to that thing that guy was hiding from with the rocket launcher. Ridiculous. There's always that one Doom 2 map that is just a shit ton of boxes. I don't know why. Yeah, there's always one Doom map. It's boxes and boxes for days. Great city, USA. Great place to live. Great place to work, they said. I said, no. No. Throw that tagline away. Throw it in the last week. Because it's old hat. And we don't have old hats. We have white hats and black hats and red hats and all kinds of hat colors that don't easily define a morality because black and white stuff. Yeah, you know what? When someone thinks in black and white, I'm like, yeah, man, your politics are like silent films. You think you're saying something, but there's nothing you have said that I can hear. What a strange insult to invented. Was that going like that one Reddit thing was just like rare insults? It's like you think that until you start reading it. It's like more predictable stuff or something that's supposedly rare. Every time. Reddit is made of Dunning-Kruger syndrome, like 100%. But there's a reason for that, and it's just how its voting works. So, because yeah, exactly. It's you're appealing to other people who are about as smart as you, probably, which means you're just reinforcing each other's beliefs and then assuming that means you're correct, and not knowing what it's like to be proven wrong, and you're like, what? I wasted my life on being wrong? And someone pointing out, being like, yes, all you have to do is just admit you're wrong, and then, like, use this new information, like, no, I'm never wrong! I don't work hard just to be considered an idiot by someone who's clearly an idiot for not working hard. That's what they do if someone they think is saying that they're smart. It's just like, nah, man, only if you work hard. Okay. Undermining your own logic, Mr. Man. I don't know. I see so many contradictions in message boards that I feel like it's child's play to try to argue with them. Except I'm not arguing with them. Like, they're not arguing with me. It's more like if we're arguing at each other, and I'm hoping someone understands what I'm saying from a third party. That's the only way that's useful. Otherwise, it's trying to talk to this one person when clearly, I should not even try to convince anyone of anything. Ever. I mean, ideally, but that only works in certain situations where specifically people are requesting it. Whether, like, for instance, the change my mind stuff. Not to say some of that isn't big, but some of it is just like, if you don't want your mind changed, why bring it up? That's on you, my good man. Or like when it's like, go roast me, and then they roast you, and then you're sad, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah. That is what roasting is. It's not supposed to be nice. Get out now. I don't even think it'd be called roasting otherwise. It would have to feel like your head is burning, in a sense. It's certainly not Comedy Central all the time, but hey. And now I shall grab my freedom. I want all my freedoms to be unviolated by the Freedom Police. The Freedom Police. Can you imagine that? Yeah, we're the police so that you have freedom. Yeah. I really like all these custom art assets in between levels. It just looks like a bunch of early 90s CGI concept art. And they just dropped in the screen, and you're looking at it, and you're like, hey, shouldn't that be an unlockable piece of art? That was my least favorite unlockable as a kid. When I play a game, it's just like, wow, you 100%. Here's art in the gallery. And I'm just like, oh, hello, JPEG from the internet. Mind if I just grab you there instead of just earning you in a video game where I can only see you by loading up this disc and load for like 5 minutes to get to a single JPEG? Yeah, I don't think so.